Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be looking at the complete range of the EOS 7 digital range. So I've got Mark 1, Mark 2 and R7 here. And we're going to look through these cameras, look at the differences and kind of look at potentially, depending on your budget point or what you do, which one would be best for you maybe. So what we'll do, we'll head on straight into the 7D and then we'll go through the range from there. So let's have a look at the 7D now. Okay, so let's go grab the 7D here. So 2009 this came out. This was my second digital SLR, so I went from the 20D, upgraded to a 7D, which back when I was doing that was a huge upgrade. Faster camera in itself, had some sort of minor video functions that personally I never used, but fully weather sealed, which is really cool. You got a lot of trickle down technology from the 1Ds of the time, which is really nice. Good sort of battery life, so you can shoot all the time, and you only had one card slot though, so you only had one CF express card slot in here rather than the two that you got moving up to the Mark II when that came out from there. This now, you can buy one of these for, if you don't care about condition, literally about £100. If you care about the condition of it and how it looks and having a lower shutter, which is more priority really out of anything else, you're looking at about £200. Plus, if you want to get the grip, it takes battery grip, you can whack that in there. 2 batteries, you then get your vertical shutter as well. This is a really decent camera. I used it for 3-4 years when it first came out, and when I first sort of upgraded to it, and loved every second of it. I've done some videos recently of using this again and kind of showing you the camera quality you can get out of here, which is still really good. I would not hesitate at all or recommending this to someone to buy as their first camera for wildlife photography. So if you're a beginner, you're not sure how you're going to get on with photography, and you want a decent camera you don't have to worry about, you can knock it, drop it, if you and sort of a rugged, dependable camera for not much money, this is absolutely perfect. If you're kind of happy with the Canon EOS system, you want to move on forward to that, get one of these, get a cheap 70-200 f4 and get that combination. About just over £400 you could have a 70-200 f4, and you can have one of these and you could be out there shooting wildlife in a fully weather sealed system and not have to worry about it, and get some absolutely incredible images. So if you're a beginner and you're looking for something, definitely a very good option for you there. But then 2014 came along and we moved on to the Mark II. Faster, more megapixels, more stuff in there. So you have your dual redundancy in here, so you have an SD card and your compact flash, which is a big game changer for the photography that I used to do, because I used to always worry about cards sort of corrupting, and I did have cards corrupt a couple of times when I was using the 7, and I just wish I could use redundancy, and at the time I couldn't afford to go up to this, or at the time when you had the 7D, you option really up would go for the 5D or something like the 1D Mark III, or potentially 4 by that point, would have been the camera, which then did have redundancy, but talking £5,000. So this is a camera that you can get these now for good condition, £500-600, which is incredible for the amount of technology and the amount of ability that is in here. There are still some professionals that are using this camera as their day-to-day go-to camera body, because it's fully water sealed, they're not massively expensive to repair or to replace, and gives you fantastic image quality and versatility. So if you are looking for something you can go out in the wildlife and you wanted to get a really good quality photo, you wanted to get a good speed, and you had a budget of like £400, £500, £600 for a body, this is the one to go for, 100%. This is something that was so renowned, and it's taken Canon pretty much 10 years to come out with the next 7 sort of in their lineup, and the sort of 80s and 90s that kind of officially replaced this were never really, in my opinion, as good a quality. They didn't feel as nice, they didn't have the same weather sealing, weren't magnesium bodied, so this camera kind of delivered and gave to you compared to those 80s and 90s. So yeah, still an incredibly good camera even 10 years later almost now. So we're 9 years since the launch of this camera, and I know a hell of a lot of people still use this. My dad still has 2 of these. This is his 3rd one, because this one's kind of been playing up, because it's been used for about 400,000 shutters, and the shutter life is 250,000. This almost doubled its shutter life, and it still works, but it has some foibles where sometimes it won't only devote back to 3 frames per second, but it still works as a camera. So something, definitely if you're looking for something that's reliable, dependable, and you've got sort of £500-600 budget for a body, and then you want to put like a 70-200 f2.8 on there, Mark 1s of those you can get for like 400 or 500 quid. So for £1,000 you could get a very decent wildlife setup. So definitely recommend this if you're looking at that sort of price point, or even if you just want a second body that you can rely on. So if you've got like a 5D Mark IV, or you've got 6D Mark II or anything like that, and you want a secondary body that's crop sensor and you can rely on, pick one of these up cheap and just use that as your secondary body and just put it in your camera bags. Me and my dad have shot these at weddings, air shows, Goodwood Festival Speed, and zoos and wildlife. So they are very good and very versatile, so definitely recommend one of these. From there, we've now come to 2022 and 2023, and Canon have moved on to the R7. Much smaller body, side by side compared to the 7D Mark II. It's just tiny. That's one of the criticisms I do have straight out of the box, is it's probably, in my opinion, a bit too small. And the fact you can't add a battery grip to it is just super frustrating with the sort of market that Canon pushed this towards, where it being a successor, and with the naming of an R7, a successor to the 7D Mark II. It's got the speed, it's got the autofocus, incredible systems on there. You got redundancy with the screen and the 2 super fast cards in there as well. You've got so much technology packed into this camera, but they didn't put a battery grip on there as an option, which is really disappointing. I've had this now for 6 months, so I've used it a fair amount. The only thing I've replaced is the eye cap on here, because after a couple of weeks mine split, and then after a few months it's now completely in like 3 or 4 pieces in my drawer, and that's just from normal use. I've not hit it, I've not thrown it around, that's just disintegrated over time, which is very disappointing. But I've got this new one on here, so I'm going to try that out. More megapixels, is 36 megapixels, which, so it's the highest megapixel by a long way 7-line camera, and crop sensor still, mirrorless crop sensor. It's a very incredible camera, but it's a little bit of a letdown compared to where we thought the range was going to go with the 7D Mark II into this. It's not fully weather sealed like the 7D and the 7D Mark II were before. So it's got the same weather sealing as a 6D, which wasn't anywhere near as nice and as good as what was on the 7D range. So there's a little bit of let down there. I have used this in the rain, I have used this in the snow, and I've not had any issues yet with anything sort of water ingress or anything like that, but I would be more concerned taking this out compared to the other cameras I've got. That's why I use primarily at the moment, I use this 1DX Mark II, and I will have this as a secondary with me, just so I'm getting more used to mirrorless before hopefully moving on to an R3 at some point, hopefully. But it's for the money though, for $13.50 it is in the UK, $16.99 in America. There's still a lot of camera for the money, so you'd have to jump up to the, theoretically really, the R6 Mark II to get a decent noticeable upgrade. The R8 isn't an upgrade at all, it's almost like a level playing field, but just the full frame version of it. and it's a bit smaller even still. This feels small. I'd hate to think how small the R8 is and feels. So you'd have to go to the 16 Mark II, which is like £1,200 more. So it's almost two of these for an R6 Mark II. So the reason you go for the R6 over this would be just because it's got the battery grip capability, which is a big win for me. It's slightly faster now. It's got 40 frames a second on the mirrorless. You've got the amazing full frame sensor in there, and you've still got the eye tracking and stuff. But I do understand that some people obviously want to be on a budget, and for a budget, this is, if you want to go mirrorless and you want to try mirrorless, this is why I got this camera, was to try mirrorless for the first time and have something that was fairly decent to kind of learn all the sort of systems and how they work compared to DSLR. And it's also the reason why, instead of earlier on going to an R3, I bought a 1DX Mark II instead and a couple of lenses for the same kind of value, because I felt that I was able to get potentially slightly better photos from the environments I shoot in from a DSLR. And I've spoken to a pro photographer who's a Canon photographer too, and he had an R5 and a R6, and he sold both of those cameras and went back to a 1DX Mark III because he was finding in certain situations that he was shooting in, and he was doing puffins and stuff like that in the Falklands, he was missing shots that he knew he could get on a DSLR. So for me, it's kind of paused me going mirrorless and mirrorless route, and I would rather save the money and go with a 7D Mark II, just so, because I know how the systems work a bit better. Maybe it's my naivety with mirrorless. I do need to give it more chance, and I will shoot more with it, but I have done 30,000 shutters with this camera already, and that's where I am at the moment. Still using a 1DX Mark II, which is now, that's 2016 they came out, so a much older camera, but it's fully weather sealed, fully reliable, and full framing gives me the image quality and the precision that I want from a camera. Since setting up the two buttons on the back, so I've got a DSLR shutter mode and I've got eye focusing shutter mode, it's been better, and I do want to give it a bit more of a chance with that and see if that changes my mind a bit and I end up using this a bit more. But I will at some point try and get an R3, just because I want to compare the flagship Canon mirrorless against my old flagship DSLRs and see if that's the reason. I'm just so used to a DSLR, pro DSLR, that going to a prosumer DSLR wasn't where I needed to be. So that's where I'm at. That is not taking away anything from this camera. For the money, absolutely incredible. And if you're looking for a wildlife mirrorless camera at a budget, one of these, if you've got the old EF lenses, adapt them over and use this without a second question. The eye tracking on it is phenomenal for birds, small birds, and stuff like that. Just be wary when you're shooting through glass, because it will say it's focused and it won't be focused sometimes, and you won't know until you review the photos after what's happened. So just be very careful in that sort of situation, but for most other things, absolutely fine. I will be taking to an air show in June and shooting planes, so I'll be able to give a review on how I find that. But overall, a very good camera for that sort of lower end, getting into wildlife photography but wants a mirrorless camera. So thank you for watching my video today. Hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea of the different 7 series cameras and sort of what their final form in this 2023, where you should be going if you've got different price points. For sure, out of the 3, my favourite from all time is the 7D Mark II. This camera is something, for the money that you buy these for now, just incredible value for money. You can't get a better camera for £500 in my opinion for wildlife photography. So if you're looking for something that you can just rely on and shoot with, get one of these. You won't regret it at all. If you want to go mirrorless and you want something that's crop sensor and wildlife, you have to go for the R7. There's no other option really, from Canon anyway. If you go for the R10, you lose out on a lot of features. You still get the eye tracking, you don't get as much speed, you don't get the redundancy. So I would definitely 100% recommend going for the R7. You want to go mirrorless, and if you're just starting out, you've got a tiny budget, go the 7D. You won't be disappointed at all either. That's an incredible camera. As I said, you can get an incredible amount of kit for that low money. You can get a 70-200 f4, and you only be about £400 or £500 deep into some equipment, and you'll get some incredible, fantastic photos with it. So hope you enjoyed the video. Longer than usual, so thank you if you have stuck around this long. If you have any opinions and you have any of these 3 cameras and you want to share your experiences, by all means do put your comment in the comment section down below. I love reading other people's experiences with the cameras that I'm talking about. And by all means as well, if you like, give us a subscribe, and there'll be some more content. I will be doing a more in-depth video on the 7D Mark II, and I'll be shooting with that and showing you exactly the quality you can get from it. I have already got a video on the 7. I'll link that in the description down below, so if you do want to see the image quality you can get from a 7D, that'll be down below. And I've done a review on the R7, which will also be down in the description as well. So thank you all for watching, have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.